Welcome to the Noble Knights podcast, number 3. Today we have joining us Piper Stutzman, Kevin Smith, and Miss Freeman. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, doing pretty awesome. Yeah.
All right, so our special guest today is Miss Freeman. So can you give us a little insight on who you are?
Yes. Hi, my name is Courtney Freeman, and I am an English teacher at Francis Hall North. This is actually my 15th year teaching, and I've taught English, right? Obviously, all 15 years. I love that I've taught almost everything in the English curriculum and, the courses available. So I've taught everything from English 1 to English 4. I've taught speech and debate and theater. Anything in terms of English, I've been in the classroom teaching, which has just kept, every year exciting. So I have currently mostly all freshmen, and I teach English 1 and pre-AP English 1.
So why did you decide to teach English?
So interesting perspective. I was one of those students that knew there were multiple things I wanted to do. So I was either wanting to be a veterinarian or a teacher, and those things aren't always very connected. But, just going through my courses and just everything with English came not easily to me. I loved the challenge, but it was natural, and the discussions were natural. And I found myself within my just basic English courses, and obviously I took AP English classes and, in high school. And so I did pretty well and had some confidence, but I found even in the basics in certain college classes that I enjoyed really having those discussions and leading them within cooperative settings. And I thought, you know what, this is something that's a strength for me. I loved seeing and being a part of someone's growth transformation, as well as I loved, being part of when someone allowed me to grow through collaboration. And so that just kind of led me to education.
Ooh.
So what's your favorite book to read in those classes?
Okay, so I teach freshmen. One of the reasons I teach freshmen is I love every single thing that I get to teach because I think sometimes curriculum navigates in certain directions, and I can appreciate everything as an English teacher. Like, I can analyze, and even if I don't love it, I can appreciate it. Because writing in general, no matter what it is and what genre, it's not an easy thing to be an author. So I appreciate everything, but I get to teach amazing things. We teach of Mice and Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, Romeo and Juliet, like tons of classics, tons of amazing poetry. I still think, hands down, I am a Charles Dickens fan, which my students don't love me usually when I teach that third quarter. So Great Expectations is one of my favorite, just because I appreciate the language and the complexity and seeing the transformation of that time frame to now. But I will have to say, To Kill a Mockingbird, I just think when my class has those discussions about To Kill a Mockingbird, that might top my list.
Okay.
So what are you currently reading?
So currently, we're finishing. This is a really strange year, which I feel like we're grasping onto second quarter, kind of mid-January, with all this, fun scheduling changes. So we just wrapped up of Mice and Men. And then in a week, when we come back from all of the half days and transitioning into third quarter, we will be starting Romeo and Juliet.
Mice and Men is a really good one. That was my favorite freshman year.
Oh, I love to hear that.
For pre-AP and regular?
Yeah, so regular, we won't probably be doing Romeo and Juliet. We tend to do a lot more short stories just to kind of get advanced on that figurative language. But definitely To Kill a Mockingbird comes fourth quarter for everybody.
Are you guys writing essays on it?
Yes, so we do essays. Depending on if you're a pre-AP or English 1, the navigation through the essay is just a little bit different, because obviously pre-AP, where we're preparing for that AP test, which is like the culmination. So those are a lot more in the pre-AP and honors classes, timed essays, even though we do some pre-writing and brainstorming. So, you have the prompt and you have a certain amount of time to get your thoughts together. It's an on-demand thinking. And they wrote a characterization essay in English 1, but it's more of we do the paragraphing as we go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, cool.
So what works would you recommend, or books or anything?
I always say it's wonderful to find a genre you love and to stick with it. I always say, like, when people are suggesting, like, with the current times and the interesting things and, that are going on in life, people are always talking about like 1984 and those types of novels. People are really in love with the dystopian novels, utopian novels, in opposition of that. But I would always suggest too to find something outside of your comfort zone. I always said that I was never a science fiction person. And I always said that to myself, but I never really had tried science fiction. And, it wasn't until one year I got to teach Ender's Game that it kind of led me into something new. So I know we get comfortable and we think that that's the only thing for us. But I would say always find someone who has some sort of differing opinion and maybe try a title on their list.
Yeah. Like
So-
I was into
You can go.
I was in the more like realistic fiction. I think that's what it was. But
Yeah.
my teacher suggested like the Red Queen series to me.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it. Like I'm scared to end the series. I'm on the final book. But yeah, it's like my favorite series ever now, and she suggested it to me. So
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
So
Um,
since you're, oh, you can go, Piper.
Oh, sorry. Me personally, I've always been into fantasy, and I've always been into sports books.
Mm-hmm.
But 5th grade, we read Bud Not Buddy in class together.
Mhm.
And ever since then, I've always had a love for historical fiction novels and all of those. So,
Yeah, I love that. And that's the thing is like getting out of your comfort zone, because again, we can kind of pigeonhole ourselves into comfort. And then once you try something, it just takes you to a whole different dimension in terms of your reading capabilities, and sometimes English teachers, we get so focused on the classics, and I love studying classic literature, like, English literature from the 16 to 1800s was like, I was fascinated by it from the language. But, sometimes again, in education, we English teachers have to realize not everyone is going to study literature. So while some of those foundational pieces, are necessary, we have to create the love of just reading for you to find it. So no matter if you're a biology major or a chem major, or, no matter what you want to do, is if you could find something like the fact that you guys said that you found something you loved that you could just have alongside of your career and keep that love of reading. I think that's the ultimate goal that we English teachers should have.
yeah, definitely.
So since you're an ELA teacher, I know you're really into the books, and so you really like to read books. But what's your favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie. Oh goodness. I'm like an old school gangster type of movie. People always laugh because they're like, it doesn't always seem like it fits my bubbly personality, but I love all the Godfathers and the Goodfellas and things like that. I love like old westerns and like Tombstone and things like that. So yeah, those tend to be my favorite that I lean toward.
Was you saw the movie from Mice and Men, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we show
Was
that in class too.
Was that better than the book, do you think?
So Gary Sinise plays George, John Malkovich plays Lenny, and I think they do a fabulous job. So I'm sure you guys have read novels and been to the movie and been disappointed, or the fact that like that person's not supposed to look that way. And I would say like, you said the color of their hair was off. How good did you read that you remember that? It's time frame is always an issue. Things are usually cut out that should be maybe left in, and sometimes directors and producers take creative, the ability to make those decisions. I love what they did. I think what they did well. But obviously there were some things that were left off. But the language, if you would go through the dialogue, it was kept pretty true to form. So that made me happy. There were a few key scenes with Curly's wife that were removed, and I think they showed her true character, maybe the not so great side of it. But again, I think sometimes you just have parameters based on time if you're a producer or director of a film.
Yeah. And have you seen the movie, The Giver?
The Giver, yes, I have seen the movie The Giver.
I just had an argument with my great grandmother about whether the movie or book was better. So
And what did she say?
she hasn't seen the movie or the book actually. So I was just wondering, like, because we were arguing about whether the book or movie was better for of Mice and Men, and then she's like, usually the book's better, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I can see it both ways because I thought the Mice and Men movie was better than the book actually.
And I think too, you just have to they're different forms of media or medium. Like you're never going to get the narration because someone can't be on a film and just think through a part, right? That you get that inside their head in a book. And then some people are very visually like understanding of concepts. So I had students that maybe certain parts of the novel didn't stand out to them, but then when they saw it visually, it was something that they wanted to use in their essay that hadn't clicked until they saw it. And then, you have audio as another form, kind of like we're doing here. Some people get a different experience when they listen. So again, I think as English teachers, yes, reading is the ultimate, right? That we believe in terms of the experience, but it can be enhanced by multiple forms.
Which one do you personally like, the movie or book?
I'm a book person, and I think that's but I appreciate what they did with the movie, and I think the acting was phenomenal, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for a movie that didn't reach it, I don't think it reached its full budget, like, for how much they spent. But, like, for the quality of how much that movie probably cost to make, to me, it seemed a lot better, like it was worth more.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about that too, with like To Kill a Mockingbird. And the first thing students are like, oh, this is in black and white, and I'm not even going to watch it. I'm like, hey, let's think of that as the experience of it too. But yeah, it's just really interesting, that discussion to have. But what I appreciate about the discussion is you have to have a foundational knowledge of the novel in order to criticize or support, that you love the movie more. So that really is the most exciting part to me, is if you can pick apart a movie, it means, wow, you really understood the important components of what we read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, history is actually my favorite subject because it's a conversation. I have Mr. Lamb. I just talk with him like the entire day. Like he's really good to talk to. I love conversations.
I've heard that because a lot of my freshmen have him for history as well. And that again, and that's, I think, we have the grammar in the English and a lot of things, the vocab that you can't really have a ton of discussion over. But, most of the things, again, freshman year that we read have they're historical fiction. So a context, which ends up being somewhat universal. And the fact that we're reading, things thematically that happen, whether it's 1600s, for Shakespeare, 1800s for Dickens, or, the early 1900s of Mice and Men, To Kill a Mockingbird. But how relevant can we make some of those conversations, and make those connections? So that's one of my favorite parts about teaching.
Yeah.
I know I read of Mice and Men when I was in 7th grade, because my dad's like, okay, you're going to have to read this either in high school or college, and you're going to read this now, so then you at least know what it's about, and you can flex on people with that.
There you go. You had a foundation. I love it. And I know people roll their eyes at English teachers too about reading things multiple times. Of Mice and Men is one that you could. It's like 107 pages. I get not maybe a 600-page novel, although some people do. But no, I do think that the fact of experiencing something multiple times, and again in different forms of mediums, that it has a different experience, especially depending on where you are in life and your connections that you make.
Mm-hmm.
I've read the Percy Jackson series like 5 times,
I love
like
that.
the entire series.
I love it. It's like watching your favorite film over and over. You see something
Yeah.
different every single time. So there is. I mean, I know you guys are bogged down. Holy cow! When I see what you do with 7 classes and all the extracurriculars, like I heard some of you had, play and theater and all that. So we know that reading things multiple times isn't always the easiest expectation, but sometimes things will slow down in your life maybe, and you'll find that series or that title or maybe something you want to go back and reread. And I think that's an important experience too.
One of those books that I'd love to go back and reread is Fahrenheit 451.
Oh yes, that would be one I would recommend too on my list.
Most people in 8th grade they say they don't like it, but from my viewpoint, they just never gave it a chance. Mm-hmm. And the message I would give to the 8th graders now, and the people in my grade and the people after me, is just to give it a chance. It's such a good book. And like all of the books that the curriculum chooses for ELA are really good books. Yeah. It's just need to give them a chance,
Yeah, and sometimes too, we get so used to reading for plot, which is how you get the basis and the foundation for reading, and then you move into thematics, and almost everything's symbolic, which some people love about English and some people hate. But it could be a drier form of writing, if you will, and not crazy excitement through the plot, but the message and the meaning. And if you dive deeper, the connection you can make there. I think sometimes that just comes with maturity of reading, and everybody hits it at a different time. But I would definitely agree. I had someone say, there's certain novels I didn't appreciate until I was, however age. And then I decided to go back and read, or maybe I read it again in college or things like that. And I think that's very valuable.
Have you ever noticed, like, in Mice of Men, it keeps saying, like, and. It says, like, the sky is blue, and I'm not feeling good today. And it doesn't use, like, whatever they're called in between the sentences.
Yeah, and like proper grammatical, structure, which is what's interesting.
That makes me angry.
Yeah, and a lot of it's, dialect, or maybe you want to keep the dialogue true to form, but it could happen in the narration as well. Like I talked about Great Expectations, and my students don't love him because he's so wordy that you could have one single paragraph, and oftentimes run-on sentences last an entire page. So it's like, oh my goodness, I can't get through. So that's, again, stylistically, like, some people loved it and some people didn't, but I think that's where the appreciation comes, from the different types. And also the fact that you can talk about linguistically and through syntax and word choice what authors are doing. It shows your level. Like, even if it bothers you, the fact that it bothers you and you recognize that, like, from a teacher's perspective, that's all we can ask for.
Yeah.
I know I tended to like Fahrenheit 451. It was that part of it was that I was confused at points. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I felt like there needed to be more detail in some parts.
Context.
Yeah, but but then I also thought, well, maybe it's part of the story that's not supposed to be detailed. The point of, like, that robotic dog, it really confused me for some reason. And I was thinking, maybe it's because it's supposed to be confusing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be something mystery and not supposed to be like, this is out here, this is exactly what it is. It's supposed to be scary that you don't know what it is.
Right. It open to interpretation, how that, like you said, you could find a lot of stories where it is what it is, and again, they could be written so beautifully and so colorfully, and you're making connections to characters. And then you often shift a little bit, and you have someone who's writing in a way that it is vague on purpose, and context is left out on purpose. And that, again, is a whole different skill, in order to understand and maybe allow yourself to interpret.
Yeah, that whole idea, we were like, wait, is the whole dog robotic? Is it a cyborg? Our whole ELA class is all over the board. And we all had like a discussion about it too, because we had no idea what we thought the dog looked like. We all had different interpretations.
I have no idea what book you're talking about, so...
Oh, you have to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it on your list.
I
have
will.
a long one. I have a long list.
It's one of the ones you have to read. Like, just to understand more about the world.
So originally, my the same ELA teacher that inspired me to read the Red Queen series accidentally gave me this book. It's called House of Scorpions, I believe.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
I haven't read that one.
She didn't mean to give it to me. That's the thing, though, and I loved it. So.
Oh, see, that's amazing. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Now, do you guys have time to read on your own, something that's not within the curriculum or the parameters of what your English teachers, give you to read?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I have some books that I read every so often. Normally I'll read them over the summer, because then I'm not having books for ELA to read and stuff, and it's a lot for me to juggle more than one book because I'll get confused.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
For me, personally, I am so lazy but so busy at the same time to where it just clashes with each other, and I don't have any time to do anything else, which is also part of the reason why I'm taking novel next year, so I can have that time to read and do all that fun stuff with reading.
Absolutely. It's carved into your schedule. I love that. Well, I always talk about too, like, reading and analysis are two totally separate things. So, the thing I struggle with, because I have a love of reading, but I also have a love of analysis, right? And picking apart novels. And if you're a great reader, you get really annoyed when teachers make you stop every 5 minutes and explain everything, right?
Yeah.
And so that is what I struggle with too, because I recognize while lit analysis is necessary to understand literature, that I don't always want to take away the love of reading. So the fact that you guys are either scheduling it in or finding some time, even if it's just during the summer, because that makes me happy, because you don't want to take away the love of something, because again, we are so, we're focused on lit analysis and, writing essays, and
Mhm.
and it's usually not an essay over the novel in your opinion. Oftentimes we talk about that, but it's usually over like symbolism or something specific. So good. I'm glad to hear that. That makes me happy as a teacher.
So I not only have time to read, but I have time to write in my
Mhm.
free time. I've been doing that a lot. I'm thinking of doing creative writing actually.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm also taking creative writing next year so I can write more as well.
Yeah, I love those classes. I mean, again, I love what I teach, but I think creative writing and novel and other electives like that, they give you more freedom within the work than sometimes when you have the curriculum and you do have the end of course test. Although I don't teach to a test because I think that's, ridiculous. You always have to prepare for it or you're not doing your job as a teacher either. So it's awesome that you guys get to take those classes.
Yeah.
To kind of bring it around to the classes, so I was wondering, like, what are your guys' concerns, Miss Freeman, everyone else? What are your concerns about next semester, just with everyone coming back from online to in person?
You guys want to go first?
I guess I'll go first. Personally, I've already had a bunch of conflict with stuffs like schedules. Of course, everyone's going to have that, but yeah, schedules changing when they shouldn't be, different things going towards next semester that's all crazy and wacky. My concerns are we going to have that 10-day grace period for new people who have never even stepped in the building before, the new freshmen who took online that are going into in person this semester? Like, are we going to have that grace period? Are we going to have that 10-day or not? And people, sophomores who are not even well equipped with the school because they've only been in school at the school for a semester and a half. They haven't been there for a whole semester, and it's been almost a full year since they've been in school. How are they going to deal with all of that? I'm not much concerned with the juniors or the seniors that are coming back because they've already been in the school for 1 to 2 separate years besides these past 2 years. But besides that, there's a lot of things that have been canceled this semester that are being pushed to this next semester. And so I feel like students overall are going to be a lot more pressured and busier than they usually are during the spring. I know, especially for me, I'm in choir. So the things that we usually have in the fall and the winter, Metro 8, is now moved to the spring. So aside from when we usually have solo and ensemble contest in the spring, we now also have Metro 8 auditions and all of those things. And that's because that's not only me, that's everyone in choir. And that's choir, we have like 100 and some people. I don't know. That's not a lot, but it's not just for us choir people. A lot of sports people are also also going to be busier during this next semester. Because I know my sister, she does wrestling. They pushed wrestling all the way back to March, so they're still doing wrestling stuff, and I imagine they're all sorts of different activities are going to be doing that, especially since a lot of things that were supposed to happen this semester got canceled and is most likely being rescheduled for this next semester. The students, I feel like, are going to be a lot busier in all of that, plus the same amount of homework that we usually get. I feel like this next semester is going to be a lot more stressful, even though we don't have finals and all of that other stuff. So,
I know that Barnwell is doing transition day for 6th graders because my sister's running that through NJHS. So I know they're doing like transition day and they're doing a grace period for that, but I don't know about the high school.
I did hear that they're trying to do something, and I don't know if it's technically a day because our turnaround is so quick. It's not like we have all those days off like we used to
Right.
during the holiday break. And I don't know if it's going to be something online or virtual, but yeah, no, that definitely is something, a freshman or new students coming into the building that have never stepped foot kind of halfway through the year when everything's rolling. Yeah, that's an interesting, concern for some new students.
I think it's going to be a bit chaotic.
Yeah. Because a lot of students are going to be roaming around that they have no idea what's going on or where to go. And especially
They're not
since...
gonna.
Yeah,
They're,
sorry.
They're not going to obey the traffic laws. Oh no, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
That takes a bit to understand. I mean, I think from a teacher's perspective, I don't know. I always try to lead from a point of like positivity, just kind of the way my brain is wired. And I actually live in a different district than Howell. So I live out in the Winslow School District, and my own kids, Ellie and Easton, are 9 and 11, and they were hybrid, and then they went all virtual, and then they went back to hybrid, and then they tried it in person for a week, and then they went to virtual. So like these poor kids have just not had a lot of stability.
Yeah.
And just the fact of what we did when we walked in, I just remember not knowing, and are we going to last a week or what's going to happen? Like, I feel like the students, I was so proud of all of you guys and the teachers and all the adjustments and things that maybe you were missing out on. But hey, maybe there's some things like we don't have finals that we can kind of hold on to. But I was just happy that, even though it was imperfect, when I saw how other schools were operating personally, I was just so grateful that, yes, there was imperfection, but, I believe we were all trying to make it work. I think the scheduling, I've heard a lot of students say, I have 6 new teachers, which doesn't usually happen, but just because virtual and people are shifting, and we have a max of we try to cap it at 25 due to space, when there's been years where I've had 33, and it's just not feasible. Yeah, it's not feasible now. So, my hope, like you said, transitioning, my hope is that all the teachers give everybody grace, in terms of understanding. That's why I love teaching freshmen, because I do understand that transitional period. And I think it's a scary and beautiful thing, that people get to experience. But yeah, I do sometimes worry about like my seniors who haven't had finals in a couple of years. And not everybody goes to college. Everybody has their own path, but maybe if that is your path, I sometimes I'm like, I hope you're taking practice tests, and everybody laughs at me, like for fun, because, college is going to be a different type of animal, if you will. But yeah, I hope that there's patience. I hope that everybody, even though schedules seem a little more limited, I know guidance has worked so hard because, there's so many different options, and it's not just one size fits all system. So yeah, it's just that everybody gets to where they need to go, and hopefully they're not missing out on a course that, maybe they've been looking forward to forever, or maybe there's still time in their high school career to kind of work that course in. But yeah, we all need to take it one day at a time and be supportive of all the changes.
Okay, so we're getting near the end of the episode. Is there anything you'd want to say, Miss Freeman, to add, or anything you want to shout out?
Oh my goodness. No, I just, I'm just so grateful to be at North. And I know again that, we can find imperfections in anything and, in the world and what's going on, and everything kind of filters and is woven together. But I truly feel like when I'm there, and again, when I'm with you guys, like this has been amazing. And this experience and this conversation is like, no matter what's going on, right, it is to just, I don't know, find that one positive thing to hold on to, or that person that keeps you moving, or be that person for others. And, and again, with literature and reading, I think one thing we don't touch on often in reading, we talk a lot of fiction and all of that, is like, find that person, that blog, that podcast, the person from history, find their biography, find that motivational, maybe step into that realm and to get some positivity, because yes, I know things are imperfect, but I think in order to be that light, you have to find it. And I just say, get out of your comfort zone, and be around people and read things and do things that inspire you.
All right.
Thank you for that, Miss Freeman. So, it's the end of the episode. I'd like to thank Piper Stutzman, Kevin Smith, and Miss Freeman for coming out to watch this episode. Please follow our socials on Twitter, Noble Knights FHN, our Instagram, Noble Knights FHN, and obviously on our YouTube. Please subscribe to Noble Knights Podcast. Please, we need the subscribers. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.